I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either.
Yes, political correctness is out. American exceptionalism is back, ready to re-empower our republic as one nation under God by restoring our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, with your host, John Matthews.
It's a latter-day prophet, baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host of the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos. And greetings out there all across this great land and around the world. It's time for the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. Hey, Joe's off today. He's got some work functions he's got to take care of, so it's going to be us together along with Bob Cardosa, and we are going to be introducing our newest Tea Party panel member, David Leach from the Strident Conservative, and you're going to love this guy once we get it on. He'll be on the second hour. Bob will be with us at the bottom of this hour, and a lot to cover here. I got to start the show out by saying this. If you were listening to us yesterday, and we got about 15, 20 minutes into the show yesterday with Scott Faulkner, who is another one of our Conservative Syndicate panel members, working with the Trump transition team. And he had a lot of stuff he wanted to cover with us yesterday. And about 15, 20 minutes in, our internet connection over on my side here just got throttled. And the bandwidth just dropped so bad. Scott was saying we were breaking up on him, and then it just disconnected. So we had a major problem yesterday with the bandwidth here on the internet, and the only thing I can say was it got throttled. It wasn't shut off. It just dropped down to such a low level that we weren't able to maintain our connections to Skype and our system here in the studio. So that's what happened, and you probably were surprised all of a sudden just hear an archive. We did the day that we replayed the show from the day before. So our apologies. Live radio, sometimes it happens. You know, we're a pretty small outfit. We don't have the technical capacity and the resources to hire tech people. This is all pretty much a two-man show, Joe and myself. So anyway, having said that, let's move on here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Several aspects of what's going on right here with this Russian allegation thing. This thing is just really, really getting out of hand. I'm almost tempted to say, yeah, let's have an investigation so that we can find and clear the air and once again prove that the Democrats have nothing other than demonizing and destruction of their opponents. They don't have policy. They don't have strength. They don't have leadership. They have absolutely nothing to offer the American public, and the American public knows it. That's the problem. The American public knows they have nothing. And so what they try to do is they're trying to get that small minority of wacko activists and people who will just follow anyone over the side of the cliff, get them out there, make a lot of noise, make it look, it's the old Sun Wu war strategy. When you don't have a lot of people, you want to make it look like you have a lot. When you're far away, you want to make it look like you're near. When you're near, you want to make it look like you're far away. And the Democrat Party has become the party of deception and illusion and even delusion. And it's this Russian thing is just getting way out of hand here. And I'm going to spend some time talking about that today because, well, we have to address it. We have to address it because if it goes unanswered, then it just becomes the narrative. And one of the things we know about the way the American electorate operates today or doesn't operate today, that if they hear the narrative, if the headlines say what the narrative wants to project, then after a while, people just listen to the headlines and they make their decisions, and their opinions are swayed, and they just go along with it. Because most Americans today, as sad as it is, the sadness of the state of American politics is that the average American doesn't want to take the time to really find out the truth, because it takes effort. And it takes way too much effort, more effort than more people want. They'd rather have their time spending Dancing with the Stars or Entertainment Tonight, The View, some of these shows that are out there that just kind of, all entertainment, and then you have shows like The View and stuff like that just tell you what to think. And you feel so quasi-intellectual listening to Whoopi Goldberg explain politics to you, or Joyce Bear and some of the other loose ends that they've got over there. So we have to do that for you. That's what this show is about. That's what we try to do. We do the work. We go out and get in the trenches. We dig it up. We do the research. And in the course of looking at all these articles that are out there about this Russian collusion, the narrative that's being projected there, that Trump is in cahoots with the Russians, and the Russians are the ones responsible for his election, and not the Hillary Clinton campaign, which was just a total disaster. So we have been doing the footwork, and I've noticed a couple of things. Outside of the elephant in the room, that nobody still has any evidence or has produced any evidence. I'm not saying there may or may not be evidence out there, but the timelines and the context of things that were said and questions that were asked and stuff like this, it's really important that we look at this stuff, because when you put it in a proper timeline and you put questions and answers in context with the timeline, you'll find that, yes, this is just something that somebody got into their head that, hey, this would be a great tactic. This would be a great Alinsky tactic. Let's isolate, demonize, and go after our target, which is, of course, our newly elected president, Donald Trump. Now, I'll start this off. We'll do this in a second, but we'll just start this out this way. And why, how it's been so amped up over the last few days. And there is a reason for that. The reason it's been amped up, the left has gone into kind of like DEFCON 1, is because Donald Trump received raves about his speech on Tuesday night. And there's some other things I'm going to expound on here about the difference, what happened between Monday and Wednesday, and how Tuesday fit into this. Because that's one of the things, the timeline and context, and you'll understand what's going on here. But the polls came out, as CNN held a poll the night of Trump's speech on Tuesday, and it was just astounding. It was astounding. And what was even more astounding, because I watched part of Don Lemon's show on CNN after Trump gave his speech, and even the leftists, the only one that was really super, super negative was Jan Pulaski, I think her name was. She was the deputy state secretary. She was a deputy under Hillary Clinton. You'll remember her, the redheaded lady who never wanted to answer any questions from the press. We know what's going on, but we're not going to tell you why we know what's going on, that kind of thing. And she was the only one that's really super negative. Now, they all had their little comments about what Trump wants to do, but in terms of his actual speech and his delivery, he got high reviews from almost everybody. And then so CNN took a poll. 72% said that Trump's proposals were right for the U.S. on the economy. 70% of the viewers agreed that the same question on terrorism. The 70% said he has the right idea, proposals regarding terrorism. 64% who watched had a positive reaction to Trump's comments about taxes, reforming the tax code. 62%. See, they're out there telling you that everybody wants refugees and illegal immigrants in the country. 62% agreed with Trump's agenda, building the wall, by the way. And then healthcare, 61% said that Trump's remarks were on point regarding Obamacare. Now, I am going to be one of those people that says, no, it was not on point. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today also. So We got a full day for you. We'll be back here. We got to go to our first break. We have Bob Cardoso at the bottom of the hour. And again, second hour, David Leach from the Strident Conservative joining our Conservative Syndicate panel, his first day on our show. So stay with us right here. We'll be back, guys. Don't go away. We're not arguing. We're explaining why we're right. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right. Boy, I tell you, I'm feeling pumped up today. Maybe because it's Friday, but just having a blast here. Just getting ready to launch into today's little discourse and conversation, dialogue, whichever term you use or choose to use. getting into this Russian deal, because this thing is just really kind of getting out of hand here. And that's the plan. That's the plan, is to get everything out of hand, create chaos, confusion, doubt, fear, instill fear that, somehow Trump is an operative for the Russians. We got the communists taking over. You would think that the left would be happy as pie that somebody like Vladimir Putin influenced the election and got somebody like Donald Trump in the White House. Of course, had it been Hillary Clinton, we wouldn't have heard a sound out of this at all, because the Republicans wouldn't say anything, and the Democrats sure wouldn't want anything being said. But, since Vladimir Putin is a socialist after all, and the left is pretty much about as socialistic as it's going to get right now until they can further advance their agenda, and the only way they're going to be able to do that, of course, is to be able to take over the White House again and Congress. That doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, and the Republicans are just playing that strategy of governing by complicit governing, not doing anything, just kind of staying off the sidelines and watching everything take place. But you would think that would be, you would be in line with that. They'd be okay with that. That kind of thing. I guess they probably would be okay with it had he helped Hillary Clinton, if that even happened. See, that do you find yourself in conversations with people talking about it as if it really happened, even if you're trying to defend it, when this happened and that. But see, there still has been no evidence that any of this stuff actually came down. The intelligence communities are telling us that. We're investigating, but as of now, the FBI is not saying anything one way or the other, but these people that are getting the committees together and out there, raising the roof about things, they can't give you any evidence. The wingnuts like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, people like this, they're just going on pure innuendo. They're just basically telling you, we know this is true because we believe it's true. And, there is a base in the Democrat Party that will follow that, and they need to salvage that base. But the average American, if they spend even just a little bit of time listening to these people, and then any time listening to the counter arguments on this stuff, it doesn't, this isn't rocket science. You don't have to have a PhD in literacy to know that this is a plan, that this is a strategy. This is Alinsky-style stuff from the get-go. This is textbook Alinsky. And so, I'm sitting here thinking about this. Nobody's ever made a big deal about the ties that Hillary Clinton had with Russia. And lo and behold, I'm out there looking on the web today just before the show like I normally do. I get a few minutes to kick around and just go out there, is there anything breaking right at this moment? And I find this article at Fox News by Peter Schweitzer, Trump versus Clinton's Russia ties. Guess who always got the pass? And he goes on, he outlines some very good things that nobody's ever talking about. He says, one-time Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort was an advisor to the pro-Russian president of the Ukraine and involved in business ventures with pro-Kremlin oligarchs. Now, let's remember, Ukraine is at war with Russia. So Paul Manafort had some business dealings over in Ukraine. Well, that's going to get associated with Russia, okay? Former Trump advisor Carter Page had energy deals involving Russian companies. Former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn gave a nicely paid speech in Moscow as a private citizen and was less than complete in explaining his conversation with Russian officials. And then there's the simple fact that Attorney General Jeff Sessions, while a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, communicated with Russian ambassadors as other senators do regularly. But these things are all being twisted to mean or to allege or insinuate that there's something nefarious going on here. And then while investigating and exploring these relationships is certainly a legitimate exercise, nobody ever talked about all the things that the Clintons did with their Russian ties. Just for instance, let me add one more thing to this. The Donald Trump's son-in-law is now being accused of communicating with Russian envoys during the transition period while Donald Trump was transitioning. And I want you to just let that sink in your head for a minute, because I'm talking context and timeline here. And we'll get to more detail of that in a moment. But let me finish up my thought here on Hillary Clinton's contacts with Russia and Bill Clinton's contacts in Russia, for that matter. Bill and Hillary Clinton both received large sums of money, directly and indirectly, from Russian officials, while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. And this is excluding the Uranium One deal, which, by the way, was a Ukrainian company, a rogue company that was trying to acquire uranium. So there was ties there, and Bill Clinton got paid a hunk of money to speak to their company. Bill Clinton was paid $500,000, well above his average fee, for a speech in Moscow in 2010. Well, who footed the bill for that? An investment firm called Renaissance Capital, which has deep ties to Russian intelligence. The Clinton Foundation itself took money from Russian officials and Putin-connected oligarchs. They took donations from Viktor Veckelsberg, a Putin confidant who gave through his company, Renova Group. Andrei Vavilov, a former Russian government official who was chairman of SuperOx, a research company that was part of the nuclear cluster at the Russian government's Skolovko research facility. Ellen Barterina, the wife of former mayor of Moscow, who apparently gave them money through JSC Inteco, an entity that she controls. The Clinton Foundation also scored $145 million in donations from 9 shareholders in a Canadian uranium company called Uranium One that was sold to the Russian government in 2010. So all these connections with Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton with Russian contacts that had ties to Russian government, and some of them directly to Vladimir Putin, and there was not a peep made about this. In fact, when people like us here at the Conservative Syndicate started talking about the Uranium One deal, it, for the most part, fell on deaf ears. People weren't concerned about that. We were in the heat of an election. Everybody was more focused on the emails, which, by the way, the left keeps telling us was hacked by the Russians and given to WikiLeaks. And that always brings me back to the other question regarding this. So what? Let's say, let's play the devil's advocate. I keep doing this with people. All right, the Russians decided they wanted Donald Trump in the White House. Maybe, let's say, because of these business ties that they're alleging right now. And Donald Trump, I'm sure, has chosen some of these people with the hope of making some kind of relationship with Russia. All right? I don't know in and that and in of itself, if he was colluding with Russia for personal gain, I would think that's something we should be concerned about, because that's what we're sitting here talking about Hillary Clinton. But if he is using contacts that he knows, people that have contacts over in Russia, and the idea here is, hey, maybe we can work something out economically and help both countries economically, create jobs or whatever. What's wrong with that? Isn't that what Barack Obama wanted to do? Isn't that what any other president wanted to do? Wouldn't you like to be at peace with Russia? Now, I'm not saying Russia's a great country. I don't think it's a good idea myself. If you were going to ask me, should he pursue these relationships with Russia? No. I think Russia's been overstated in terms of their power and influence. I think they're just a third world banana republic. Nobody wants to acknowledge it because of the Cold War. Shadows of the Cold War keeps everybody on edge about this nation. But I don't think there's anything in the big picture, anything to really worry about, because I don't think Russia has the ability to ever come back to the status and the level that they did during the Khrushchev, Brezhnev years. Okay? So, Gorbachev years, although, that period of time. So, but the ties that Hillary and Bill Clinton had with these Russian people is synonymous with what they're accusing Donald Trump of doing without any evidence. We have evidence that these other things took place. We have no evidence that there's anything going on with Donald Trump. Now, having said that, let's kind of just take a moment here and look at the timeline of what's going on here. By the way, Morning Joe Scarborough, finally said something on his show that was worth listening to. He believes that these leaks that came out, these leaks that are coming out, and this increase in the volume regarding Jeff Sessions' contact with the Russians and calls for him to step down and resign and everything else, it was politically motivated and strategically planned. And I really want to get more into that because there's something here that I picked up on. And if you were listening to us the first few minutes of the show yesterday, I was trying to ask Scott Faulkner, who's working with the Trump transition team, if there was any thought of this. But I'll get into that just a little bit more later because I don't want to get ahead of myself. But here's the deal. This is how it's coming down here. All right, we have Michael Flynn had talked with the Russian ambassador in December of 2016. And I don't know if they have confirmed whether there was a mention of the sanctions or not. I think that probably was. There might have been. I don't know. But the timeline, December 2016, that was a month after the election had already taken place. If Russia was colluding, Michael Flynn was colluding with the Russians as part of the Trump campaign, wouldn't it have had to have taken place before November? Because once President Donald Trump became president, the campaign, for all intents and purposes, at least officially, was no longer in play. It's no longer there. Now, yeah, people are saying, well, he's still campaigning. Well, Barack Obama's still campaigning. He's out of office and he's still campaigning. But the point being is that the timeline, a month after the election's over, Michael Flynn talks to somebody over on the Russian side, and the belief is that he mentioned something about sanctions, whether they were going to ease the sanctions or whatever. So what if he did? Still not illegal and still no collusion in terms of the outcome of the election, which is what the left is making a big deal about. This collusion between Trump and the Russians is what cost Hillary Clinton the election. Well, the election had already taken place. So what collusion could Michael Flynn have had in December of 2016 that would have been relevant to influencing the outcome of the election? That's why they keep going back to the WikiLeaks thing. But the point being is, okay, Michael Flynn did or did not talk about sanctions to the Russian ambassador in December of 2016, a month after the election had already taken place. Now, the other thing they're talking about is Jared Kushner. All right, he's the son-in-law of Donald Trump. Jared Kushner, now a senior White House advisor, and his former national security advisor, Mike Flynn, met with Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak at Trump Tower in December 2016. All right, so this has been confirmed. The White House Director of Strategic Communications has confirmed that, yes, they did meet with the ambassador, both Donald Trump's son-in-law and Michael Flynn, in December 2016, a month after the election. Now we hear that also during the transition, Jared Kushner met with some Russian envoys. That was in January of this year. Again, 2 months after the election. So what does this have to do with collusion that influenced the outcome of the election if these meetings and conversations, texts, emails, phone calls, whatever it is they're alleging here, took place 2 months after the election? And there's still no evidence that anything happened before that. Well, now, the big deal is that the way the left in the media is playing this is what? Trump has told us there were no contacts during the campaign. Yes, during the campaign. See, they don't want to specify that. Jeff Sessions says, yes, I met with Russian people during my time as senator. And yes, that just happened to coincide with the campaign. But I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I had to meet with these people. And so I met with them in my capacity as a senator. Well, because it happened during the Trump campaign, that means Sessions must have been acting as a surrogate rather than a senator. No evidence. Don't know what was talked about. Sessions said, I don't even remember half the conversation. That may be true. That may not be true. But the point being is that there's nothing to indicate that there was actually any collusion about influencing any election outcomes. And until somebody can prove to me that the Russians were able to cast ballots through, and if they couldn't have done it through the illegals because they all voted for Clinton. So unless you can provide proof that the actual ballot count was manipulated by Russians, then everything else is just talk. And it's innuendo and accusation and means absolutely nothing. But it does serve the narrative. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Red State Talk Radio is now available as a voice command on your Amazon Echo and Echo Dot by simply saying, Alexa, play Red State Talk Radio.
Red State Talk Radio on TuneIn.
You can now find us on the Amazon Echo and Echo Dot, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, and we also have the phone apps in the App Store for your particular phone. And just in case we activated your Echo Dot, Alexa, stop.
Red State Talk Radio, WRS Cleveland.
You know, sometimes when you compare prices on products, you think to yourself, what difference does it make? The rates are all about the same anyway, but sometimes the rates are very different. Let me give you an example where there's a huge difference in pricing between companies. Vehicle protection plans. Look, if your car is 4 years or older, having a vehicle protection plan is a no-brainer. The trick is not to overpay for it. Here are the facts. The average price of a vehicle protection plan is $2,800, while the price of a TOCO warranty vehicle protection plan for most vehicles is just $1,500. The average down payment on a vehicle protection plan is $299. With TOCO warranty, there's no down payment. The average monthly payment on a vehicle protection plan is more than $160 a month. With TOCO, the average monthly payment is just $49. To get a highly rated vehicle protection plan at a great low rate, call TOCO Warranty at 1-800-987-1519. That's 1-800-987-1519. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate a lower tax bill. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will fight for you using industry secrets that can stop any IRS actions, eliminate penalties and interest, and reduce your past tax bill so you pay the IRS less. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, call the Tax Doctor now for a free IRS audit emergency review.
800-691-9879. 800-691-9879. 800-691-9879. That's 800-691-9879.
Hey, this is Leonora Cravota from Red State Talk Radio for MyPillow. I used to have trouble sleeping. MyPillow changed all that. I now fall asleep within moments of my head touching my pillow. That's how comfortable MyPillow is with its patented interlocking fill. MyPillow stays cool and does not go flat. Plus, it's machine washable and dryable. MyPillow has a 10-year warranty and a 60-day comfort guarantee. MyPillow is also the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation, and it's made right here in the USA. MyPillow is now offering Red State Talk Radio listeners a 4-pack special with 2 premium standard or queen pillows and 2 go anywhere pillows. That's 4 pillows for the price of 1. To take advantage of this special offer, call 1-800-961-9194 and ask for promo code RedState. That's 1-800-961-9194, promo code RedState. Put sleepless nights behind you with MyPillow, the most comfortable pillow you will ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote. Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294. Are you behind on your taxes? The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote at 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294.
And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, hey, we're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. Joe's off today. He's got some work functions, things he's got to take care of, so we're going to do it today. Going to hook up right now with our good buddy over at Robert Cardosa Live, Bob Cardosa, and see what's going on in his end of the world, what's happening on his side of the fence. And he's simulcasting right now. You there, Bob?
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing most excellent. Just recovering from yesterday. We got throttled yesterday like crazy.
What happened?
Well, our bandwidth dropped down to like 2 meg, and it just knocked everybody off the line, and we weren't able to. By the time I got it all fixed, 25 minutes had gone by, and I'm like, oh man, that's not something you can fix in post, you know. So.
Well, you know what? Things like that, because I'm not as technically savvy as you are. I generally right away just shut everything down and throw in an archive show and try to figure it out later. I wouldn't begin to know how to get the bandwidth back up.
Well, we did. We were able to do it, but by the time I got it all done, it was just way out of whack here. But that's what I ended up doing. I had to throw an archive on here and then get offline and try to figure out what's going on. So it's just I don't know what happened. It's throttling. It's definitely throttling. It came from the internet service provider, which I was on the phone with them for quite a while yesterday, bitching.
You have the same one I have, right? Frontier.
No, I use Charter. I had Frontier, but it used to be Fios, and when they changed to Frontier, I cut them loose. I just wasn't happy with what they did to our service over here once they took over. But it is what it is. So I got to work something out here. They can't give me more than 6 meg upload on this thing, and this is not going to work. So.
Oh man, you got it. Yeah, you can't have that. You can't broadcast, especially at the time of day that you're broadcasting. You've got too many people trying to use the computer to get in your way.
Oh, well, yeah, especially if I get more than 2 callers on, it's just, no, it's not going to work. So we're working something out. I mean, I'm revamping the whole family here. We're like, I'm going to change my phone service so I can get cheaper phone and use that money to probably go back to Frontier and just get their internet. They got some good stuff over there. So anyway, that's where we're headed. So
hey, I'll tell you what, I have a guy that's on my show. His name is Dr. Wireless. It's Joel Salzman. I'll send you his information. He's an expert at this stuff. And he makes his money from the different companies, and he represents everybody. And he's got the best deals sitting out there. It's just unbelievable deals. Before you do that, you might want to give him a call. I'll send you his information.
Oh yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. So I don't know where we start here.
I got to tell you what. You told me we were going to talk about how do we fund the Affordable Care Act, or how do we fund the repeal and replacement of the Affordable Care Act. And gosh, John, that could take hours to actually talk about, and I'm not even sure that people are going to like the answer to that. And there's so much going on today with regard to the Affordable Care Act, not only just today, but, I sent you an email earlier about the bad news that was going on with the Affordable Care Act, and the fact that the scams are hot and heavy, and that 92% of the scams against the Affordable Care Act are taking place in California, New York, and guess where? Vermont, or Bernie Sanders' state.
Geez, why does that not surprise me?
So there's just so much collusion and stuff going on. But if you want to talk about it from an accounting standpoint, just a money standpoint, I think that's really what you wanted to do. It's very, very intricate when you start thinking about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Now, Medicaid is the state arm of the almost indigent insurance system or care system, and each state sets up their own. But the state generally only pays half the bill, and the federal government pays the other half of that bill for each state. But the part that the feds take, they're taking that right out of your paycheck, and it's part of the Medicare program that's going to pay for that Medicaid that they supply the states with. Now, you and I both agree that the states need to be in control of the insurance. The problem is there has to be a mandate. If there isn't, no program is going to be fiscally responsible. And what I've read so far, when they talk about the vouchers, they're not going to work simply because they're not going to be enough to get any kind of decent coverage for anybody, because they're going to make exceptions for young, healthy people as opposed to the old people that actually use it. So the young people aren't going to get they're not going to get enough to get a good comprehensive policy unless they get hit by a car or something. And the old people are taking so much medication that their $4,000 voucher isn't going to get them the insurance to do anything with. And so that's not going to work. And what has to happen is they have to spread that out almost and make it mandatory, even though it's done by the state, so that they can level the playing field. They need to get rid of the restriction of competition between states and insurance companies. I mean, it's ridiculous. If you have State Farm or Mercury Insurance or any of those insurances, you can buy car insurance in any state you want from those companies. But medical insurance, some of them you only have one choice, and that's where the problem is. We don't have competition, and then we need to have tort reform to keep the legal costs of medical care down. Then you can start doing some of these things. But the biggest problem is if they use tax credits, and that's why I sent you that thing today, those are being abused. People that haven't even filed tax returns are getting refundable tax credits, and they're not buying any kind of insurance or anything with that. And so it's got to be policed better. The problem that we have is we seem to go off half-cocked with any program we do, whether it be Obamacare or whatever the Republicans are now trying to put into place. They're all going to be fixes. We seem to forget the policing of these things so that it's not taken advantage. The one thing I'm completely sure of, and then I'll shut up because I know I've got enough there for you to hammer me with. The one thing that I'm completely positive of is if you don't make it mandatory, people are not going to do it. You're going to make it their choice, and they're going to continue to use the emergency rooms free of charge, not pay that bill. You and I will be paying that bill, and all this extra money, the vouchers and the block payments and those things, will be going to them, and they're going to be using it for booze and drugs and God only knows what. Okay, well, that's it in a nutshell. I could go on for hours and hours with this.
Well, I'd have to say right off the top here, I agree with you 100%. You have the same assessment.
That's no fun.
Well, but it goes beyond that. Okay, putting this into the big picture. Okay, first of all, we have to understand Medicaid is the model that the Democrats want to use to eventually bring us into single payer system. That this is what Bernie Sanders touted during his campaign. Medicaid is the answer. Okay, now that does require that people pay into that system. Now, but again, when you start talking about the poverty level and everything else, these people are not going to be required to pay anything, so it still has to be subsidized. Now, you take that and you put that in the concept of the state exchanges. Look at Medicaid as the state exchanges. Mm-hmm. And now you're sitting there and you say, okay, now what do we have to do? We have to pay for that. We're still going to have to subsidize that. And the Republicans' answer in the replace is what? Block grants. We're going to give block grants to the states to be able to manage this. All right? So I don't know how much more that is than the 50% that they contribute towards the Medicaid. If it's more, if it's less, I'm not really sure. But here's the bigger problem. At the same time, you're giving tax credits. And as you said, we now know through this audit that that's been abused. But even so, tax credits reduce the amount of income tax that somebody who does not disobey the law and does file taxes, that's going to be less money paid into the system, less money that can be used in the system. You
hit the nail right on the head. You're absolutely right, John.
So now what we have, even if we tear down the borders, even if we allow international competition for pharmaceuticals, And even if we say, okay, states are going to control everything, you still, in my book, taxpayers are going to have to pay more, because I tell you this, if the Trump wants to keep the existing conditions, okay, we want to keep that. Insurance companies, I explained this Wednesday on the show. People don't understand that insurance is based on risk. And the risk is covered by those who pay for it and don't need it, and used by those who do need it. And that's been the big problem with Obamacare. The young people don't want to pay for it. But even so, if the insurance companies come out and they say, okay, we still have to maintain pre-existing conditions, then there has to be an increase in premiums for those people, or it has to be offset through subsidies, which means an increase in taxes. Either way, the taxpayer ends up paying 2 to 3 more areas of taxes. Now, don't tell me you're going to cut a person's taxes and then turn around and take it for Medicaid and call it something else.
You know what, and John, you are so absolutely right, because part of you can't increase spending, and there's a lot of spending that's going to get increased here. You can't increase spending all over the United States budget, including Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and not increase taxes. It's just not possible. And he wants to give a tax break to middle income and higher income people and businesses. And that sounds really great. But you know what? That means there's less money going into the federal government and less money going into the state as well, because they have what they call subventions, and these subventions go and not equally, by the way. What California pays into the federal government comes back as just a percentage of what goes on there. That's the subvention that is sent out, so that the state does their own mandated stuff. The truth is, you've got to be praying that the economy goes through the ceiling, which is not likely unless you get somewhere around, if we could only get 3.5% inflation, or 3.5% growth, that would be phenomenal. You have to maintain that to have a healthy economy and try and get your deficit down. But if you want to do it the way they're talking about doing it now, you got to have 5.5%. That's just, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, that's my problem. I'll say this, and we'll go to our break here. My solution is this: break down the borders, allow international competition with the pharmaceuticals, quit taking the money, and turn around and let people buy their own insurance. That's how you do it. You put more money in the consumer's pocket to go out and buy the insurance. They can now afford to buy their own plan. And if the insurance companies want to subsidize by determining, based on a mortality rate or whatever it is for an age group, and say, okay, this is how much we're going to charge, but we're going to jump it up just a little bit to cover people that have to have it, pre-existing conditions or whatever, you can offset it that way. But the way I see it is that they're actually going to be taxing in 3 to 4 different ways and not calling it taxes. It's going to be a backdoor kind of thing, and everybody's just going to think, oh, yeah, it's okay. But no way in the world would we be able to now go back out and get the plan that we had originally and pay the same amount of money.
Absolutely. I know we got to take a break, so I'll save what I want to say with HSAs, and that's for when you come back.
Okay, all right. All right. We're talking with Bob Cardoso over at Robert Cardoso Live. We got to go to our break here. We'll be back in just a moment, guys. Stay with us. There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. The ConservativeSyndicate.net, the adult in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring. And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, guys, we're back, and this is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, who's off today due to work obligations, and we're going to get back right on the line here with Bob Cardosa over at Robert Cardosa Live, and we're going to resume our conversation here. I'm hoping to have we'll have time. Okay, there we are. Hey, Bob.
Okay. I'm here.
Yeah, you had a comment. You had a response to what we were talking about regarding the Obamacare situation.
Yeah, one of the things that they want to do as well here, John, is that they want to reestablish HSAs. Those are the health savings accounts, and get people to put money in there on a pre-tax basis, so that people can use that money as though it was non-tax money, and they're going to take the limits off of that. The problem with that is people, when it was available, weren't using it, and that's what they would buy. That's what they would use to buy their insurance with, buy their prescriptions, pay the premiums and medical premiums. They could actually get Band-Aids and stuff like that way, and aspirin that way too. But people weren't utilizing it because the government never explained the proper way of using HSAs. And if they make that voluntary, people are never going to do it. And the problem that comes down to is with the economy we have, whether you want to, if you believe the liberals that say that the economy is doing terrific, that's one thing. If you believe the Republicans that believe that, and it's true that we're struggling still, most people, and you can see that happening. And if you believe either side of these things, what's going to happen is people are still living paycheck to paycheck, and if they've got a choice of whether to put money into a health savings account to pay for insurance premiums or to put that money to put groceries in the refrigerator, they're going to put the groceries in the refrigerator.
Yeah, and so what happens is, to me, it's just a repackaged deal as far as Obamacare. Now, the good things that Donald Trump was proposing the other night, and I've been going over Paul Ryan's plan. That's really what Donald Trump floated out there the other night, was Paul Ryan's plan about block grants, interstate commerce, competition of pharmaceuticals. Those are all good things. The only thing that they keep screwing up is thinking that the government can operate this. And it's just because of the fact. I mean, how many times does the government have to screw something up before people realize they don't know how to do anything?
John, we got a government where the leaders that we actually elect to represent us, protect us, and keep us secure, we can't even get them to talk to each other, for God's sakes.
Yeah, well, again, it doesn't surprise me, given the fact that we as an electorate, and I'll include myself in this group because we're Americans, whether we like it or not, whether I like the fact that others are Americans or not. The fact is that we keep putting these people in office, and then so we come right back to the same narrative, is that unless something changes in that aspect, we're just going to everything is just going to be repackaged, and what's going to happen is you're going to see Trump try and do what he can do, and he's going to finally just wear down, and he'll turn out just like the rest of them. But this whole idea that it's the government's responsibility. See, this is where my big beef is, that everybody has come to believe the narrative that something like health care is a right. It's not a right. You have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but you don't have the right to somebody else making sure that you have your rights fulfilled. It's not entitlement. That's what's happened. We've gone from opportunity to entitlement. You're entitled. That's what they should be saying. Everybody's entitled to health care. No, we're not, because health care is a private enterprise. And therefore, and it should be kept a private enterprise because that's what we are. We're an economy that runs on private enterprise. The idea that the government injects itself, and the idea of saying, okay, well, instead of calling it Medicaid, we'll call it block grants. Instead of calling it taxes, we'll call it a surcharge.
You're right. It's a matter of semantics. They really do believe if they change the name, that it's going to be something else. I mean, the truth is, if it looks, walks, and talks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right?
Yeah. So, you look at it and you just say that's what, as a conservative, one thing I've trained my mind on is listen to what's being said and to discern what you really mean. And I call it liberal doublespeak. When you hear things about, well, everybody should have health insurance, well, maybe everybody should, okay? But that doesn't mean that everybody else should be responsible for it.
But would you agree with this premise? First of all, I know that you and I agree that it should be a state issue and not a federal issue.
I think the government under the Constitution, the state commerce, they have the ability to lower the borders. That's the only involvement by the federal government that's constitutional. They can take the borders down and say, we're going to allow interstate commerce, okay? Everything else at that point...
Would you agree that this is a moot point if they would get rid of the barriers of competition for insurance companies and do some tort reform so that physicians don't have to pay $250,000 a year for malpractice insurance and lower the ceilings on these wrongful lawsuits? Because this is all making attorneys rich and is keeping the general public from being able to afford quality health care. If they did that, wouldn't you agree that the cost of health care would actually come down?
Oh, sure. And but like I said, once you remove the borders and you allow international competition in pharmaceuticals, the free market takes over. We know how the free market works. Now now everything is in the hands of the state. Everybody has to register with a state insurance commissioner. We run the show through there. You want to do something with surcharges and funding the poor and doing all this stuff, you put it on the ballot and you let the respective citizens decide one way or the other. But the idea that the government mandating this stuff sucks, and it's not going to work. Never going to work. Never has, never will. We're at the end of our time.
Remind me about a free country again.
I'm sorry?
Remind me again what a free country is.
Free country is... Freedom isn't free. That's for damn sure. Well, okay, we're out of time, Bob. I got to let you go here. You got about 30 seconds. Plug your show.
Okay, listen, I'm on every Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Robert Cardozo Live. Get my app. Search your app store. Search for Robert Cardozo Live. It's right there. It's absolutely free, and you'll be able to listen to me 24/7 in all of my archives. Hey, John, terrific show. I look forward to talking to you on Monday.
All right, we'll talk to you later, my friend.
All
right, that was Bob Cardozo, and from Robert Cardozo Live. He streams the same time we do. We're actually doing simulcast. That's why sometimes when we connect, you kind of hear... It's just a few minutes of discombobulation because we're trying to time our commercials and everything else because you have to do that on live radio. Anyway, we're coming up at the top of the hour here. We've got the Edwards Notebook for you. Coming up next hour, we're going to have David Leach, our newest member of our Conservative Syndicate party panel, and we'll be back with him, and you're going to love this guy. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away. We got a lot more for you today.
I have said ever since Donald Trump first announced his candidacy for president that the nature of Donald Trump's presidency would expose the bigoted socialist rats like the ones trying to take down Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, the Democrats are nothing more than a gaggle of bitter, disgusting patriot phobes, liberty phobes, Constitution phobes, low-tax phobes, Christian phobes, Trump phobes, etc., etc. They even recoiled when the president called to strongly go after terrorists and get them out of the country. The Democrats have devolved from just being the opposing party into obstructionists, or more accurately, deadly enemies of the Republic. But despite those enemies of our beloved America, she shall be great again. And we the people will be joyful as Americans in a land where God shall be honored. Prosperity will soon break out from sea to shining sea. In fact, much of the world will be blessed as a result of renewed United States. If the Democrats remain embittered, bigoted progressives, they will soon be relegated to long-term irrelevancy as they from the sidelines watch America the Beautiful become and remain great for a long, long time. God bless America, and may America bless God. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either.
Yes, political correctness is out. American exceptionalism is back, ready to re-empower our republic as one nation under God by restoring our unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, with your host, John Matthews.
It's a latter-day prophet, baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts of the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos. All right, hey, we're back. Hour two right here at the Conservative Syndicate, and we're glad you took the time to join us. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. And Joe is off today, as I mentioned earlier. He had some obligations at work, and he's got to take care of some business there. So we let him have the day off. Got to pay the bills. I hope you enjoyed that last segment that we had with Bob Cardoso, because this Obamacare thing, this repeal and replace is ludicrous. And it's a repackaged deal. It really is. It's just repackaged Obamacare. And it's just a Republican's version. I think I've said many times on this show, that the only difference between Republicans and Democrats these days is who's running the show. It's not in their policies or their agenda. It's just who has the power, because the power equates into wealth. Most of these people, live their lives out in Congress at one level or another, and then they leave Congress, and what do? Become lobbyists for other corporations and something like a special interest of some sort. And, so they build their wealth that way. They use it. I mean, I think I did a segment on the show last year on how many congressmen became millionaires after they came into Congress. Some of them were already millionaires when they came in, but there were a few that became millionaires while they were in there. And some of them are at very high positions right now in the government. Darrell Issa comes to mind right off the top here. Made a fortune in real estate. So that kind of stuff. So the Obamacare situation here is this. This is really what it boils down to. The idea that the Republicans are saying, we're going to be all things to all people. Well, that's what Obamacare promised. That's what the Democrats said. We're going to be all things to all people. And everybody's going to get covered. Now, Trump is telling us, well, we're going to do away with the mandate, but we're going to expand Medicaid so that the states are able to take care of their own people. We're going to give them grants, and then we're going to let people buy their own insurance. Now, we'll do that by tearing down the borders and allowing competition in the pharmaceuticals. That will help, but that's not going to resolve the big problem, is that you're still going to be subsidizing a large portion of the population at the state level for the uninsured, the people that either can't afford insurance or don't want to get insurance right now or whatever. And it still is going to evolve into taxation, but they won't call it taxation. There'll be fees, there'll be surcharges, things like that. The markups on the drugs will still have to kind of be high to make up for certain things. So you're still going to be paying more in the end, and we're not going to get our old plans back. Those of us that had other plans out there, if you had a PPO with Blue Cross Blue Shield or something like that, you're not going to be able to get that back at the same price that you'd had it 5-6 years ago. One, you're going to be older. Okay, but the company, if they have to continue to provide insurance for pre-existing conditions, somebody's got to pay for that. And I understand that you have a pre-existing condition and you need health care. I understand that. And I understand that they think they're going to have some kind of check in place that you can't wait till you get sick. That's why you need a mandate, because otherwise the people can do that. We've talked about the fraud. That's a fraud out here in California with the tax credits. They can't even account. They don't even know if the people they gave the tax credits to were eligible. Well, that's because a lot of the illegals are getting it out here, but they don't want to tell you that. So there's just a lot going on with Obamacare that we're still not hearing. It's still going to be one of these pass the bill so you can find out what's in it, pieces of crap. So just think about that. Think about that as you start hearing these arguments back and forth. The Republicans are no better than Democrats. Just remember that. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have David Leach with us from the Strident Conservative. In fact, we're going to start off this commercial break with his clip. We're going to start playing his clips on a regular basis, kind of like the Edwards Notebook, and then we'll have him on with us, and let's find out what this guy's about. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You're listening to the Strident Conservative. He's always right.
Hello, America. This is David Leach, the Strident Conservative. During his confirmation hearing, Senator Jeff Sessions swore under oath that he had no contacts with Russian officials in his role as a surrogate for the Trump campaign during the 2016 election. But following revelations that he had 2 meetings with the same Russian ambassador that former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn had met with, which led to Flynn's resignation, calls for Sessions to resign, or at the very least, recuse himself from a Department of Justice investigation into Russian interference with the election, are reaching a fever pitch. While this revelation is most likely the result of a dedicated effort by Obama, the Democrats, and their friends in the media to find a way to destroy the Trump administration, a stated objective of Obama's emerging shadow government, by the way, the situation is made worse by Donald Trump's bromance with Vladimir Putin. The Trump campaign and presidency has been full of Russian red flags. Sorry about that pun. Here are a few examples. Trump had the GOP party platform changed to remove sanctions against Russia for their military aggression against Ukraine. Trump's wealth has been heavily subsidized by Russian money, a fact verified by Donald Trump Jr. Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, had ties so close to Russia that he had to resign from the campaign. Trump's decision not to release his tax returns is believed to be due to his connections to Russian oligarchs. And Trump named pro-Russia businessman and good friend of Vladimir Putin, Rex Tillerson, to be our Secretary of State. The situation with Jeff Sessions will most likely fade away, but these kind of attacks are likely to continue considering Trump's connections with Russia. This is particularly true in light of new information released today about Obama's shadow government. Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett has literally moved in with Barry and Michelle in order to establish a command central designed to attack Donald Trump, to impeach him, or force him to resign. If you have a comment on this topic, visit StridentConservative.com.
There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. The ConservativeSyndicate.net, the adults in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring. And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. Okay, hey, we're back, and you are indeed listening to the Conservative Syndicate, not by accident, by the way, and we're glad that you took the time to join us today. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos. Joe's off today. Work obligations, has to be down at the squadron he works for, and some things going on down there, and he's got to be down there. But we are so glad to have with us our debut and of our newest Conservative Syndicate panel member, David Leach. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing most excellent, most excellent. It's Friday. I mean, what can I say?
Absolutely. It's always a good day.
Yeah, always a good day. All right. I'm not really even sure where to start here, but I've been ranting most of this second hour here when we came back about the idiocracy that is just running rampant in Washington over this Russian allegations, these things that are going on here. And I have a theory. That's what I do in this show. If I talk about something long enough, I can begin to kind of put together the purpose behind it. I like to tell people you can go anywhere and get the who, what, and where. We'll give you the how and the why. And one of the things that I'm really kind of thinking about when I struck me on Wednesday was the fact that between Monday and Wednesday we had Trump's speech. And by all measures, even the left, a lot of the leftists out there said, well, the speech itself was good. In fact, I was one of the people that asked who wrote it because it didn't sound like Donald Trump to me. But I was like, okay, he did what he was supposed to do. He hit the right notes. He did everything he was supposed to do. I don't agree with everything he said, and we can talk about that. But the point being is that we wake up Wednesday morning and we get hit with this stuff about Jeff Sessions and about these Russian allegations of colluding with the Russians, and that's why Donald Trump won the election, not because Hillary Clinton was a bad candidate or anything else. And now between there and today, between Wednesday and today, we're hearing more about this. We're hearing Donald Trump's son-in-law met with some of the Russians back during the transition. And I started to put these things together. First of all, the timeline of everything. The timeline being, of course, Michael Flynn and Trump's son-in-law talked to these people after the election. So that brings into question to me, how does that equate to collusion during the campaign? But more importantly, the timing of it. Trump comes out, hits a home run with his speech. The next day, all these leaks start coming out of the Washington Post and New York Times. And here we are now. Instead of talking about what Trump was talking about, we're talking about non-news, fake news. And once again, the left is driving the narrative. And my theory is that this stuff was known before. And they decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to float it out. We're going to save it for that opportune moment that we can use it. And lo and behold, boom, there it is. It comes out, and here we are. Does that sound conspiratorial to you?
I don't think it's conspiratorial at all. In fact, my commentary from a few days ago talked a little bit about this. You've heard of the shadow government that Obama is supposedly building, right? Oh yeah. Well, we've been documenting it now for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't believe. In fact, that meeting that Sessions had with the Russian ambassador was arranged by Obama when Obama was still in office. So the answer to your question, yeah, they knew about it and they held on to it until this particular time. First of all, let me say, people who've heard my commentaries or read my website, I'm not a big Trump fan, not because of anything personal with Trump, but I'm a strident conservative. That's my handle. And I look at everything through the prism of a strident conservative point of view. And so I'm concerned, for example, of what Trump's presidency is going to do to the conservative movement. But that's something we can talk about some other time. But Sessions, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't lie under oath. He just really didn't directly answer the question, which, of course, politicians are known for doing. So I believe that this was all part of an agenda. I believe that as we're seeing, Valerie Jarrett moved in with, as you heard in my commentary today, Valerie Jarrett moved in with the Obamas now. She's got her own office in their new home. And it's specifically for creating a command central to take down Donald Trump either through impeachment or through his resignation. That is the only reason it exists. And so when you look at some of this stuff, and then, of course, the media is compliant. So when you look at some of this stuff and the timing, you're exactly right. The timing isn't a coincidence. He did have a good speech, although, like I said in my commentary a few days ago, if he was, it'd be good enough for a Toastmasters award maybe, but all that big government stuff, I'm no fan of at all. But when you look at the timing of the release, it was absolutely intentional, and I believe it's going to get worse before it gets better. And some of this is Trump's own fault. This bromance that he has with Putin is very troubling. His inability, apparently, to criticize anything Russia does is very troubling. Throughout the campaign, he's done this. And, and then there's some of these unanswered questions, like maybe his tax returns. The reason he's not releasing them is because it's going to show some Russian connections that he's been denying that he has. And so I think you're right. It does kind of get over into the category of fake news, but I don't think Trump's helping the cause any at all.
Oh, I agree too. I'm exactly on the same page with you. People, my defense of Trump is not because of Trump. It's because of the false allegations. It's the narrative that the left is presenting. That's what I'm attacking. I may defend Trump, but I'm only defending him as a source, as a means of attacking the narrative, the false narrative, which is out there, which is my definition of fake news. It's not made up news. It's anything that contributes to a false narrative. It has an objective. All these allegations and insinuations and accusations and all these things, still to this day, nobody's provided any proof. And so I'm telling people, if they have proof that he colluded with Russia, not over the election, because so what? If Russia was able to influence the election in this country, hey, more power to him. Barack Obama tried to influence it over in England with Cameron. They tried to take down Netanyahu. He sent people down there, Messina, Jeremy Byrd, David Axelrod. These guys were all dispatched to try to influence elections. So that's something that's probably gone on since the beginning of government. You try to get the population on your side. But if he was colluding for the purpose of saying income, business, then to me, okay, we have an issue here. But so I'm not defending Trump. There's a lot of things. His speech the other night, although I thought it was a great delivery, there were a lot of things in that speech that I'm not happy with. His version of Obamacare doesn't sound any different to me than Obamacare, except we take down the state borders. That's pretty much it.
We take down the state borders, and then the only other thing they're offering is the repeal of the mandate.
Yeah.
In essence, the system stays in place, which means that the disasters will continue.
Well, even if you were going to repeal the mandate, I mean, we were talking with Bob Cardoso last hour. He's my money guy. And I was saying, you're still going to have to, if you're going to give block grants to the states, that money still has to come from somewhere. The government still is going to have influence on how things are going on. You're talking about, what you're doing is talking about expanding Medicaid in the states, which is Bernie Sanders' program. So right. I'm sitting there looking at all this. I'm going, there's nothing here that sounds even remotely possible. You and I, if we lost plans under Obamacare because they didn't qualify, we're not going to be able to go back to that insurance company and get those things for the same price and get the same service, especially if you keep the pre-existing conditions. So it's kind of like, okay, so you're going to pay more in premiums anyways. You're going to have some kind of backdoor way of taxing people to be able to pay the subsidies to the states to keep the state exchanges running. And so it's 6 of one, half a dozen another, really. And just, tearing down the borders might help. International competition on pharmaceuticals might help, but it's not going to create a healthcare system that everybody's going to be able to benefit from without paying an enormous amount of money by the same people that are griping about it now.
And it's like you and Joe mentioned a few days ago. I listened to one of your archived programs, and just from a few days ago, the bottom line is that what Trump is proposing, what Ryan is proposing, is basically just a different version of government control of healthcare. And we're not going to fix the healthcare crisis, to use the left-wing word, if we don't understand the fact that if we don't go with a free market solution,
right,
then it's going to be absolutely more the same old. It's going to maybe have a different label and a different flavor to it, but the base of it is going to be exactly the same as what we have now.
Yeah, I mean, all we have to do is look at Social Security on the verge of bankruptcy, Medicaid on the verge of collapse, Medicare It's not any better than Social Security right now in terms of funding. And so I'm sitting, okay, so now we're going to give them the whole ball of wax? It doesn't make any sense, and I personally blame a lot. I put a lot of this blame on the electorate. I have what I call the Gruber theorem, the stupidity of the American voter. We keep putting these people in office and expect them to do something different, and that's not the way it's going to go. But I guess in the big picture, back to what we were talking about here, is this idea that this collusion thing, this narrative, this is strict. This is textbook Alinskyite stuff. To sit here and target somebody and then just begin to demonize them and then isolate them and be able to push everything off to the side. Now, I'm not really worried about whether Trump was talking to Russia. If it was about, they're saying, well, we'll talk about the sanctions. Okay, Mike Flynn talked about it, but that was a month after the election. So what's the big deal there? If Donald Trump's son-in-law was talking in January to these people, what's the big deal? The election's already happened. So the whole idea of saying what happened was Russia, Trump's been in collusion with these guys, and I agree. I guess that's where I was going with my response to what you were saying. People say, well, you're a Trump supporter. No, I'm not. It's not. It's that I'm adamantly against the left. Okay? He's what we've got right now. And God helped us. He gave us a window of opportunity here to fix this mess. But I'm not so sure, from what I'm hearing so far, there's certain things Trump I think is going to help. He's going to fix. But I really don't see a whole lot of change, especially in the social environment. The social issues. So, do you see massive changes in same-sex marriage or the Planned Parenthood or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely not. Trump is already on record about, for instance, he recently, the administration recently pulled back on the bathroom mandates for schools through the school system. But Trump also chose not to overturn one of Obama's executive orders when it came to businesses that want to contract with the government and their compliance with, there can be no discrimination, quote unquote, to use their word, of LGBT individuals if you're a business that wants to do business with the federal government. So if you're a Christian-owned business and you'd like to do some business, if you'd like to work on the wall, and you're a Christian-owned business, if you don't have pro-LGBT policies in place, then the government's not going to accept your bid. And we also have there's an ambassador. His name slips my mind at the moment, but he was appointed by Obama, and he's going around the world promoting LGBT policies on behalf of the United States of America. So, it's kind of a mixed bag there. Trump really hasn't said anything about the same-sex marriage issue, but his past as a liberal Democrat doesn't leave me feeling very good at the moment. Well, actually, no, wait a minute. I take that back. He did say one time during the campaign that he considered same-sex marriage settled law. Well, I remember the issue being that, if that's settled law, then why are you going to try to overturn Roe v. Wade? Because that's also settled law. So if you're going to use the settled law argument as a cop-out, then basically you've indicated that you're not going to do anything about the issue.
Well, from my understanding, I did hear him here just a few weeks ago making mention that he felt his position seems to be if Congress hands me a bill, I'll sign it. But he's not going to go out of his way. He's not going to be a pitchman for it. And I think what could happen here is that could happen with the Supreme Court justice that he's got confirmed here. We might be able to go that route. But I do know that he said he thought same-sex marriage was pretty much a state issue, which I would happen to agree with, by the way. If somebody can get it on the ballot and citizens or residents of that state say, yeah, we want this, well, it's going to be hard to make an argument against that if we're going to sit here and say federalism is the way the government should be running, but we don't like it when you pass laws we don't like. If you do it in a state level, I'm okay with that. It doesn't make me happy, and I don't think it helps the country. But it's better than having the government come in and mandate that you've got to sell cakes to people at a gay wedding, and you've got to perform services and make flower arrangements, or we're going to destroy your business, and that's what's happening right now. So, I never expected him. All I wanted from Trump was the justice. That's how I'm like. If you just give me that. I can deal with the rest of the stuff, Just don't give them the court, because if they get the court, we are history, That's kind of been my thinking on this. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, I've got some clips here. I want to play clips here and get your take on this. I don't know if you've heard these, but this is Al Franken questioning Jeff Sessions on the Russian contacts, and when you hear the entire question and the context of the conversation, how anybody could have assumed or garnered out of that Sessions was hiding anything is just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's pure stretch and imagination. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We've got David Leach from the Strident Conservative with us. We'll be right back.
Red State Talk Radio is now available as a voice command on your Amazon Echo and Echo Dot by simply saying, Alexa, play Red State Talk Radio.
Red State Talk Radio on TuneIn.
You can now find us on the Amazon Echo and Echo Dot, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio, and we also have the phone apps in the App Store for your particular phone. And just in case we activated your Echo Dot, Alexa, stop.
Red State Talk Radio, WRS Cleveland.
Sometimes when you compare prices on products, you think to yourself, what difference does it make? The rates are all about the same anyway. But sometimes the rates are very different. Let me give you an example where there's a huge difference in pricing between companies. Vehicle protection plans. Look, if your car is 4 years or older, having a vehicle protection plan is a no-brainer. The trick is not to overpay for it. Here are the facts. The average price of a vehicle protection plan is $2,800, while the price of a TOCO warranty vehicle protection plan for most vehicles is just $1,500. The average down payment on a vehicle protection plan is $299. With TOCO warranty, there's no down payment. The average monthly payment on a vehicle protection plan is more than $160 a month. With TOCO, the average monthly payment is just $49. To get a highly rated vehicle protection plan at a great low rate, call TOCO Warranty at 1-800-987-1519. That's 1-800-987-1519. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate a lower tax bill. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will fight for you using industry secrets that can stop any IRS actions, eliminate penalties and interest, and reduce your past tax bill so you pay the IRS less. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, call the Tax Doctor now for a free IRS audit emergency review.
800-691-9879. 800-691-9879. 800-691-9879. That's 800-691-9879.
Hey, this is Leonora Cravota from Red State Talk Radio for MyPillow. I used to have trouble sleeping. MyPillow changed all that. I now fall asleep within moments of my head touching my pillow. That's how comfortable MyPillow is with its patented interlocking fill. MyPillow stays cool and does not go flat. Plus, it's machine washable and dryable. MyPillow has a 10-year warranty and a 60-day comfort guarantee. MyPillow is also the official pillow of the National Sleep Foundation, and it's made right here in the USA. MyPillow is now offering Red State Talk Radio listeners a 4-pack special with 2 premium standard or queen pillows and 2 go anywhere pillows. That's 4 pillows for the price of 1. To take advantage of this special offer, call 1-800-961-9194 and ask for promo code RedState. That's 1-800-961-9194, promo code RedState. Put sleepless nights behind you with MyPillow, the most comfortable pillow you will ever own.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote. Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294. 800-790-4294.
And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, hey, we're back. And this is the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, who's off today. He'll be back on Monday with us. And we've got with us David Leach, debuting with us as our newest Tea Party. We call it Tea Party panel. I call it Conservative Syndicate panel. David Leach from the Strident Conservative. And what I want to do here, I really think context and timeline is everything. I touched briefly earlier in the conversation about the timeline of how things just have escalated so much in just a matter of a couple of hours, meaning indicating to me that this stuff's been sitting out there for a while, and it was just being saved for the proper moment, which is what the left does. But when you put the context here, the question that Jeff Sessions was asked during his confirmation hearing, put the entire thing in context, and it's obvious to even the plainest person. I mean, you got the IQ of seaweed. You should be able to figure this out, that he was answering a question about the campaign per se, acting as a surrogate for the campaign and his duties as a Senate member on the Armed Services Committee. In line with that, just a little brief intro here, just reported today that Nancy Pelosi had denied that she ever had any contact with this same Russian ambassador. And lo and behold, they've got pictures out there now showing her back in, 2010. This would have been during the Obama administration, sitting at a table with the Russian ambassador having dinner. And she comes out and she says, oh, well, that's not what I meant when I said I never met with him. She said I never met with him one-on-one. Okay, now just think about that. Context. She's saying, wait a minute, I misstated something here, and I'm going to now put it in context. Jeff Sessions says, I misstated something. I probably should have said, well, I have met with these people, but in the context of the question, I didn't. But that context doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because it's Jeff Sessions and not Nancy Pelosi. So I'm going to play the clip here, a couple of clips here, and I want to get David's take on this. This is Al Franken actually putting his question in front of Jeff Sessions during the confirmation hearing, and pay close attention to how he asks this question.
Senator, last Friday, the Director of National Intelligence, and we've covered this a little, representing 16 agencies, released a declassified intelligence report stating, quote, we assess Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered an influence campaign in 2016 aimed at the U.S. presidential election, unquote. And yet, despite the consensus among our intelligence agencies, President-elect Trump has remained persistently skeptical. During the first presidential debate, he wondered aloud whether the responsible party could be China or, quote, somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds. Last month, he called reports of Russian hacking, quote, ridiculous, and, quote, another excuse for the democratic laws. He said, quote, it could be somebody sitting in a bed someplace, again. I mean, they have no idea. And even after the release of the declassified report, the president has really yet to acknowledge Russia's role in the hacking. You said earlier that you accept the FBI's conclusion. To my mind, it's absolutely extraordinary to see a president-elect so publicly refuting and without evidence, so far as I can tell, the assessment of our intelligence agencies. Why do you think President-elect Trump has been so unwilling to acknowledge Russian involvement in the hacking?
I did mean to indicate I respect the FBI and I respect the fact that if they give a conclusion, they believe it's accurate. But I'm not able to comment on the President-elect's comments about it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the leading question. The leading question is, why is Donald Trump downplaying, and why is he refuting the intelligence agencies? Why isn't he buying into the narrative that Barack Obama had a report done, which, by the way, miraculously came to be in about 2 weeks? Remember, he ordered this report on vacation. I want this when I get back. And lo and behold, it was done. And like, when does the government ever move that fast? Okay, but the point being is he gives them the leading question. Now listen to this question, because now he gets into the question that's at stake here, or the center of this big controversy.
CNN has just published a story, and I'm telling you this about a news story that's just been published. I'm not expecting you to know whether or not it's true or not, but CNN just published a story alleging that the intelligence community provided documents to the president-elect last week that included information that, quote, Russian operatives claimed to have compromising personal and financial information about Mr. Trump. These documents also allegedly stated, quote, there was a continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump surrogates and intermediaries for the Russian government. Now, again, I'm telling you this as it's coming out, so, But if it's true, it's obviously extremely serious. And if there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
All right, so the context of the question is, first of all, Franken is bringing forth, this was the first report by Jake Tapper over at CNN that there was a dossier on Donald Trump, and this dossier was by an MI6 agent over in England who was retired, running a privately owned security firm, and supposed to have contacts in the Russian arena and everything else. And Franken is telling him, well, this is just coming out. I don't even expect you to know whether it's true or not. And then he goes into this little narrative about, well, if this is true, then this would certainly be, something we'd be concerned about. And I don't know about you, David, but I can sit there and listen to that and say the question was definitely being asked within the context of, did you have any contact with Russia during the campaign?
That's exactly what he was trying to imply. But as you already pointed out, the absurdity of the question is ridiculous in the first place. Here's something that by the way, isn't it ironic that somebody questioning Sessions apparently gets his news sources from the same place that Obama did? He just watches the news every night. But I mean, it's like, it came from CNN. So I'm going to ask you this particular question, and you may or may not know if it's true or not, but I want to know if you think it's true or not. I mean, it's just totally ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, well, that was the whole thing. And the idea that but the context of the question, he was definitely asking, and within the context of, were there any contacts with Russia? Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I had some kind of a spike here in my equipment for some reason, but you're good. Go ahead.
Well, I was saying the context of the question definitely was, he was asking it within the framework of this dossier, because that's what he was talking about. The dossier that nobody could confirm, and most of the media, by the way, just credited and said, we can't verify any of this stuff. And that's what he was talking about. This report by CNN, Jake Tapper. This is back when the, quote, dossier hit the airways. And in it was supposed to be all these reports about inappropriate conduct by Trump, contacts between the Russian government and Trump officials, and all this other stuff. He says, twice he reiterates, I know this is just coming out. I don't expect you to have an answer for it, but do you have an answer for it? That's basically what he was saying.
Exactly, and that's what was so absurd about it to begin with.
And so to sit here and say, okay, well, no, you lied. You lied. You should have told us that you were meeting with the ambassadors as a member of the Armed Services Committee. And Sessions said the other day in his press conference, thinking back, he says, it took me back to, well, it would take him back. It just had come out. Nobody had time to know about this stuff. Frank and somebody probably handed it to him as he was walking in from a piss break somewhere. Okay?
Probably right, yeah.
Yeah. And so he sits down and starts framing this question. And Sessions is saying, "Oh man, I don't." It's like, it's the equivalent of, David. Remember back in the presidential campaign when George Stephanopoulos nailed Mitt Romney at the debate about banning abortions at state level. Okay, and Romney's going, what was it? Oh, contraception, banning contraception at state level.
Yeah.
And it threw Romney. He's like, "What are you talking about? Nobody's talking about this stuff." And it was something that was just thrown out there. And yet that became a narrative immediately after that the Republicans wanted to ban contraception. And so
it's like the old joke, tell me, Senator, have you stopped beating your wife? I mean, it's just like
yeah. And so this is the kind of stuff that is being blown up now and feeding this false narrative. That's why I look at it. I don't call fake news going to the Onion and reading what the Onion has published today. That's not fake news. That's entertainment.
Yeah, that's satire.
Fake news is anything that contributes to a false narrative, and that's innuendo, accusations. I tell people all the time, remember when Obama told us we don't go by innuendo and accusations, we only go by what the facts present? And yet you're telling me that we're going to sit here and accuse this guy? We have no facts. We just have accusations and innuendo, but we'll just keep repeating it enough and it will become a fact. And everything, even the Republicans have bought into it. You find these Republicans going, "Oh yeah," it's like they're like constantly in a deer in a headlight. They just have no idea how to respond to anything, which really bugs me because that's our big problem here. We got our president, we've got a Congress, we've got a Senate, and we're still not doing diddly squat about anything. Everything Trump's done so far, he's done on his own, nothing through Congress, and so it's amazing. So, where do you think this is going to go? Do you think we need an investigation? I would just to shut him up, right?
Yeah, based on what I commented on today, though, I think that there's some unanswered questions that I think we should probably know about. I mean, Donald Trump Jr. said years before the campaign, of course, but it came out during the campaign, that much of Trump's money comes from Russian investors and oligarchs. And so it's like, okay, we kind of need to make sure that we aren't crossing that ethical line when it comes to that particular part. I mean, Trump's done a lot of things that are non-traditional. I mean, he didn't get rid of his businesses. He didn't put them in a blind trust or anything like that. And so, for me anyway, I want to make sure that there's not some way that he's profiting through some back door way. Because of some of these relationships, particularly with Russia.
I agree. I agree with that. My thought is this. This is just my thought. Then we have to go to a break here, and we'll get you back on here after the break. My thought is this. I think Trump has lined up some people that have contacts in Russia. I think he may have done that for the purpose of trying to do something on foreign policy, to help maybe with the destruction of ISIS, or maybe to try to bring some calm to the Middle East region. And maybe that's his thing. Let me use my contacts, and maybe we can actually do something with Russia that would help us. If that's the case, I'm all for it. If it's not, if it is the fact that he's trying to, behind the scenes, make some money for him or his kids or whoever it is, then I think we have a major problem, and rightfully so. So that's my take on it. I think we need the investigation now just to clear the air, if nothing else. So
I agree with you completely.
Yeah. Well, okay. We got to go to a quick break here. We've got David Leach. I don't normally talk this much when I have contributors on, but I just a lot to get off my chest today. We've got David Leach from the Strident Conservative with us. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go away.
There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. The Conservative Syndicate.net, the adult in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring. And now back to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. All right, hey, we're back, and this is the Conservative Syndicate. Excuse the little glitch there. Hit the wrong button at the wrong time, and that's what happens. But that's live radio for you. I'm John Matthews, your host, and we have David Leach doing his debuting as our newest panel member here at the Conservative Syndicate. And David, I want to give you time here. We've got about 8 minutes or so left in our segment with you today. And you've got, what's hot on your plate right now?
Well, we're going to be talking about this on my website on Monday. It's something I've been doing a lot of writing and commenting on over the past few weeks, particularly since the election. And that's the Obamacare repeal. I mean, the Republicans have been running since 2009 on, the repeal of this evil thing called Obamacare. And now that they have all the cards and they control all of Washington, of course, it's no mystery to most conservatives that they appear to be vacillating just a little bit on their commitment to overturning this disaster. The things I'll be covering on Monday have to do with some of the things that have been hitting the news today, and there's going to be some more news about it tomorrow, and it's this. Paul Ryan is keeping his so-called solution to Obamacare top secret, much like Nancy Pelosi did when she got Obamacare passed. It's in a locked room. Can't take it out. You can't get copies of it. No one in the Senate is even allowed to look at it yet. Rand Paul has been trying to get in and take a glance at it, and he's been prohibited from doing so. So we've got this closed door approach to trying to solve the problem. But then more than that, news leaks are not accidental. And some news leaks coming out now that Paul Ryan and his crew are pretty much going to pass this faux repeal of Obamacare, repeal in name only, and they're going to basically challenge the handful of conservatives. There's about 30 of them in the House of Representatives. They wrote a letter, in fact, to Rand Paul asking him to make sure that they do, at the very least, what they passed back in 2015, which was basically nothing more than a way of trying to get certain people on the record because we had an election coming up.
Right.
And but that was a full-blown repeal of Obamacare, including the Medicaid subsidies part of it. Well, that's the part that's looking like it's going to stay. And so he's basically going to pass this piece of legislation, or at least propose this piece of legislation, and make these 30 guys either vote for it against their conservative principles or vote against it with an election coming up next year or their re-election coming up next year. So it's pretty much kind of the John Boehner, Mitch McConnell approach to the conservative parts of the Republican Party. Screw you, we're going to do whatever we want to do when it comes to this particular thing because, after all, we're the ones making the rules. And so we've got that particular part of it coming up. And quite honestly, if that gets through the House, which it likely would, because there'll be enough Democrats who would cross the line to support it because it basically would be Obamacare, or at least Obamacare light. Then it goes to the Senate, where McConnell, of course, has always been known to be a spineless wonder. And we have, Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and Mike Lee, for sure, that have said that if they don't get something equal to the 2015 bill, that they'll vote against it. If they do that, then even under a reconciliation approach where you only need 50 votes to pass the legislation, they won't have it because that, of course, would put them below the 50 threshold. Then what will McConnell do to try to call out McConnell's no fan of Ted Cruz. He's a marginal fan of Rand Paul. And he really doesn't care much for Mike Lee. And so I'm very concerned about the fact that we're basically going to end up with something that they're going to be able to call repeal because they'll get rid of the touchy parts, like we were saying earlier in the show. They'll get rid of the mandate. But then they'll leave everything else in there, which basically is going to give us government-run health care, except it'll have an R after it now instead of a D, and it'll be called Trump Care or Ryan Care instead of Obamacare, and it's going to be a disaster. And, the economy's on the precipice anyway. We have all these unfunded mandates that we can't take care of. Social Security and Medicare, I think our obligations are somewhere in the tens of trillions of dollars. There's no way we'll have the money to pay our obligations. And then they're sitting there pussyfooting around with this kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to be talking about on the Strident Conservative on Monday. That'll be in my commentary that you share with your listeners and also be what I'd be writing on my website.
Oh, excellent commentary, and I I agree 100%. I think it'll probably be called Ryan Care because this is basically his plan. And my guess is when it gets to the Senate, what you'll see enough senators vote against it that it'll allow Mitch McConnell to once again vote for it and say he's a conservative, but it won't matter because he only votes conservative when he knows the outcome is not going to be conservative, and it drives up his ranking in a conservative review kind of thing. And then when election comes around, he says, well, see, on my voting record, I'm conservative, I saw people that try to defend him, people like Michael Medvedev and Dennis Prager, people that just turn my stomach and call themselves conservatives, but they're out there. Well, he's the most conservative member of Senate. In what world?
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! If I heard them say that, I'd be calling in right away. Oh, that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Well, that was my Michael Medvedev all during the campaign was talking about how conservative Mitch McConnell was, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I was at a gathering down in Indian Valley where Ann Coulter actually defended Mitch McConnell. She almost got booed. Well, she got booed. She almost got pulled off stage. You don't walk into a room of walk into a room of Tea Party people and say Mitch McConnell's a conservative. That's suicide. That kind of thing. Anyway, we're out of time, David. I wanted to give you time to promote your website and what you do.
Appreciate that. StridentConservative.com is the website. There's no "the" in front of it, and appreciate the opportunity. I've really enjoyed being with you. Looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, same here. Glad to have you aboard. All right, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you next week.
Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Okay, guys, we're coming up in the end of the show here, and as always, I have a special closing here. I kind of was going to toss around the whether we're going to do Melania Trump or Raise Him Up, but I think we're going to do Raise Him Up. We'll be back on Monday. Visit our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. God love you. We thank you so much. Oh, I guess maybe if I'm going to do that, I should cue it up here. It's always nice to do that. All right, guys, we'll talk to you on Monday. Take care.
Guide me to who you want me to help. Raise up more that will call upon your name. Raise up those that love you and seek you and trust you. Raise them up, Lord, raise them up. Lord, we need a generation of believers who are not ashamed of the gospel. We need an army of believers, Lord, that hate to be lukewarm and will stand on your word above all else. Raise them up, Lord, raise them up. I pray for unity among those that love you. I pray that you open their eyes so that they can see your truth, Lord. I pray for your hand of protection and guidance. Raise up a generation, Lord, that will take light into this world, that will not compromise when under pressure, that will not cower, Lord, when others fall away. Raise them up, Lord, that they will proclaim that there is salvation in the name of Jesus Christ. Raise up warriors, Lord, who will fight on their knees, who will worship you with their whole hearts, Lord. Lord, call us to battle, that we may proclaim you King of kings and Lord of lords. I pray these things with all my
this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's theconservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best in uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, along with Joe Hako, signing off until next time right here at the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.